So we are going to get started. And we do have slides today, but I wanted to make part of this just a really candid conversation about how to look at and how to think about next year and really chunking it down. Some of the things that used to work really well in the past, where you would make your whole annual goal and you would think about the big goal for the year. In my experience working with you guys, even with my own self and with some other coaches, it seems like post-COVID, having more immediate goals and some shorter term goals, it just seems like most of us are connecting with them in a stronger manner, and it's impacting our daily decisions in a more powerful way. I am not a doctor. I don't pretend to know why I'm seeing this. I am seeing it, and there's evidence of it. If anyone here doesn't relate to what I'm trying to describe, please let me know. I think that sometimes when you think about your annual goal, so let's say that you want to sell 100 homes next year, and it's February 6th, and you're already quote unquote behind. Can anyone here imagine thinking, you know what? It's okay. There's still so much time left in the year. I'm going to go to family reunion, or I'm going to go to this convention, or I'm going to do that. And when I get back from that, then I'll ramp up. Or, the first quarter is always slow. I'll cover it. I'll cover the gap in the second quarter. Can anyone here relate to any of those thoughts or comments? Okay.
Absolutely.
So what I wanted to do today, and I want us all to take a moment and thank Ruby, because Ruby is the one that when we were planning this out, she's like, Coach, I think you need to freshen it up and you need to make it more relatable to what's happening right now. And so I'm going to thank Ruby in front of all of you, but she really made me reconsider it. One of the things that was a flavor of the month for a while, who remembers when the 12-week year was like the big thing? And everyone's like, oh my goodness, the 12-week year. And does anyone know the 12-week year? I'm considering, with my own business, truly attempting to implement the 12-week year at a high level in 2026. If that sounds appealing to you, whether you're a client or you're not, a coaching client or not a coaching client, I would like for you to, Ruby, why don't we have them send a quick email and just put in the subject line 12-week year 2026, and we'll get back to you on it. But the more I'm thinking about it, that's where you chunk things down and you're looking at it with more immediacy. May I share a couple of other reasons why I'm really thinking about this and how I think it would impact you guys in production? Many of you know last year, Linda Lee, she started off with a slow first quarter. She's an agent in San Diego, and she just made the commitment in March that she was going to set a new personal best record for 1 month production, and she decided to focus on GCI. And does anyone here remember what the outcome was? Linda's from Dimple's office. So she made that decision in early March. In the month of April, her gross closed income was $371,000. When she made the commitment, guess what her pending GCI for the month of April was? Goose egg. There was one pending that was probably going to close in May that had a chance of possibly moving to April, and it was just a regular deal. It was like a condo or a townhouse. It wasn't like a $10 million luxury property. So she ended up with that simple focus in a short term, really totally changing the trajectory of the year. And she ended up being the 37th highest income solo agent producer in all of Keller Williams for that year. And that was with a slow start. Would anyone like one other example? So Lauren Eady in Northern Virginia, she had a slow start to the year, which was unlike her usual flow of things in Northern Virginia. And in April, she actually texted me and said, can you chat today? It was in between her regular coaching calls. And so I called her, and she was in her car driving, and she was completely stressed out. And she said, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do. She's not panicky. I don't know how many of you know her, but she's not someone who panics, but she was definitely stressed and intense. And she was saying, it's reached the point. It's reached the point. I'm going to have to start figuring out, what am I going to cut? What am I going to do? I have to make some changes immediately, because she was starting to feel the cash flow crunch. And I am not exaggerating. And if you called her and asked her, she would tell you this right away. I said to her while she was driving and freaking out, why don't you just close 10 million in production in June? And this was April. And she had a couple listings, but that was about it. So she did not hit 10 million in June. It was around 6.5 million in June. Someone take a guess of what you think her gross closed sales volume was in July. No one's going to guess. 17 million. Dimple, you're very close. She ended up closing 17 million in production in July. And I could sit here and we could take the next 20 minutes and I could give you more examples of either Amber Cruz. She was on at the beginning of the call. I think she had to step away. Amber was not pleased with the gap that was occurring this year. And back in end of August, right around Labor Day, I said, what if you just take 12 listings in the next 4 weeks? And did nothing else. I told her, I said, if your team comes to you and they're like, hey, can we talk about the event coming up? No. Can we approve a social media? No. She literally rebuke everything and only focus on taking 12 listings. Do you think she took 12 listings in the next 4 weeks?
I'm sure she did.
She did. She ended up getting 13. So did that completely fix everything? Is she back? Did she cover the full gap? No. Is she a lot more comfortable right now having the 12 new listings, and it's up now to 15 because more people that she spoke to during that time have converted. So are you getting why my mindset when we think about this was shifting a little bit?
Yes, it's absolutely if we set it in our minds, that's when we feel committed towards it. And I am struggling with that same thing where mentally I feel that I'm not there yet, but yet I'm not bunkering down and just focusing on what I need to do. So this is a very good reminder, Bridget.
I would encourage all of you, and if anyone is sitting there thinking, well, wait, how does this tie in with the economic model or the cash flow for an agent or the agent economics or economy? This is directly it. And we'll go to the slides in a minute. What if you guys really committed that in 2026, you would hit the following? On January 1st, between your active residential resale listings and your pending sides, you would be at 15% of your unit goal for the year. What if you commit, and when we finish this class, you go into your calendar and you set when you will track this and record it at the end of, January and the end of each quarter. What if by the end of quarter one, your closed and pending transactions are at 30% of goal for the year? And what if at end of quarter two, you're at 65% with a combination of residential resale, active listings, and pendings and closed? And by September 30th, you're at 85%. And by Halloween, your closed and pending equals your unit goal for the year. So this is the interactive part. Unmute yourselves. What would be possible for you if you took a one thing approach and became, I'm going to use the word obsessed. When I use the word obsessed, I mean it in a positive manner, not like a stalker creepo. Okay. But you just become focused, intentional, purposeful around those simple benchmarks and chunk your year up. So I need at least 2 people to give me some feedback. What would you all think about that?
Well, as you already know, I'm trying to plan the last chapter of my life. So doing this and being on target would certainly put me right where I need to be.
It really would. Julia?
So what I'm thinking is when you reach those units, all other problems are not a problem anymore. When the income is there and you are the one, I don't know if you remember the number that was always my glass ceiling. I am 5K short just by reminding myself of this ginormous goal. And when we talked, you and me, when you were still my coach, when we talked about it, I could not really be behind that and believe that. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, I feel like, wow,
Now
all
you
of a
can.
sudden, all of a sudden we are there. By constantly reminding ourselves, like you just said, how many more units by XYZ date would get you there? Count backwards from your goals and then check off. And you feel so accomplished, and that gives you the momentum. First, it needs discipline, but once the momentum is going, and then you can speak from success. And I always feel like when we speak from success, it's attracting more because you have like the vibe of a successful agent.
Right.
I'm never good with holding the timelines, but the timelines hold us accountable of where we are. Do we need to hit the gas more, or are we already pretty cool? But when we're already pretty cool, let's not stop there. Let's keep the momentum
Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you guys think if you hit July 1st and you're closed and pending and your active residential resale listings? By the way, this formula pretty much focuses on residential resale or spec homes, so you're not counting like a new custom build that's going to close in 2027. But if you knew that you were at 65% on July 1st, can someone share how you think you would feel that morning of July 1st? And you're like, yes, we are right where we need to be to actually close our unit goal this year. Would that be a meaningful feeling?
Yes, of course. And I think that might also make us want to keep the momentum going and achieve higher than what, we had initially set our goals on. So I feel like once you have that momentum come July, I would feel motivated and I would be like, I want to crush my numbers. I want to like keep going. So, but yeah, I mean, not getting there yet, Bridget. So, but yeah, I mean, I would be thrilled to get to my goals in July, 1st of July.
So I really feel like this is the year that this is possible for all of you. We have plenty of time now to focus on hitting that 15% for January 1. Who has already calculated that number for themselves? Who knows their number for January 1st? Can you share? Are you in a place where you can unmute and share it or put it in the chat?
We going with my number, or the number you told me to rip up and go for the higher? It was just 70 units. We're going for 70 units.
How many? 17 units?
70.
Okay, so what's the 15% of 70 that you need to have pending on January 1st as a team?
11.
Okay. So he knows to be absolutely secure in hitting 70 next year, January 1st, he wants 11 sides pending that are going to close that year. That's the A plus in the AP class. That's perfection. An A plus in the regular studies class would be a total of 11 between signed residential resale listings and pendings. And by the way, that is an indicator of success, not failure. You literally can start the first at 0. Like I shared about Linda, she didn't start at 0, but it was really low for the first quarter and still became 37th out of the company. So it's not an indicator of failure. It's a massive indicator of success. So all of you, please calculate that number. I feel like, to me, the first of 2026, and I understand that every day is just a day. Days have no particular meaning. The world is turning, 24 hours are going. We put meaning into dates and days. And if we decide to lean into it, it can be very powerful. And what I've really been reflecting on is that January 1st, 2026 is the first day of the next quarter of a century. On December 31st, we literally close out the first 25 years of this century. And on the 1st, we start the next 25. So you guys get what I mean. Any one of you could say that's meaningless. Calendars are a man-made creation. However, is that empowering you? Like, if you decide to say, like, yes, this is the year, this is my time, this is the beginning of my next 25 years, and 2026 will be my best ever. And fill that in. Obviously, I'm using a broad topic, but you get what I mean? Personalize it to you, customize it to you, and really think, how do you want to kick off that next quarter century? Rhonda used such great language. She's working on really planning and really writing in detail, not just about her business life, but Rhonda, your whole life. And so why not lean in and give that January 1st, give January itself that you are this first month of the next 25 years. And I'm going to lean into that and use that to my advantage. So what I'm going to recommend, because we didn't make a slide about this yet, I'm going to challenge all of you to set a small goal for every month of next year. We used to do this a lot. Who remembers doing the growth plans where it was simply just a grid with 12 squares and there was a square for each month and you would put a book you were going to read or something you were going to go to, right? So it's kind of like a new version of the growth plan. And what I would challenge you to do is to fill each month with things like I will make more contacts in 1 month, in the month of January, than I've ever done in my entire career. They will be meaningful. People will feel valued, respected, and important when I communicate with them. And then set a target for yourself of how many people are you going to talk to in January. In February, I'm going to go on more listing appointments than I have ever gone on in 1 month, or maybe make that March, since, a lot of you might take some time off in February. But what could happen if you went through the whole year and set a different smart style goal for each month? Anyone think that could be beneficial?
Definitely.
Handwrite it. And when I think about this activity, obviously, especially in the first 6 months, I think it should be about income producing activity, both lead indicators and lag. So 1 month it might be listing appointments held. 1 month it might be listings taken. It might be, as Linda did, gross closed income in 1 month. But in the last half of the year, I think you could also incorporate some bigger picture, big life things that you want to achieve for yourself. Maybe even some bucket list items. I don't know. Jay?
So I like it. I'm just curious. I'm talking out loud here. Like, I'm always looking for distractions from the thing that needs to be done. And it gets kind of cute to be like, in February, instead of making contacts, I'm going to blah, 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 right? Like, I'm almost wondering, does it make more sense to like do the challenge, but like challenge yourself to the same challenge like 6 months in a row, just to see if you can best yourself as you get more efficient and more focused?
You definitely could do that. I mean, this is a work in progress, and that's why I'm wanting you guys to contribute. So maybe once you set that personal best, right, you continue to build. But one of the things I've noticed is when Linda wanted to have a new personal best record of GCI in 1 month, guess what she had to do a lot of?
Prospecting.
Yes. When Lauren wanted to close 10 million in June and ended up with 17 in July, 21, 23 million total in 2 months. Guess what she had to do a lot of? When Amber took 12 listings in 4 weeks and annoyed some of her team members to the point where they reached out because she refused to engage with anything else. Guess what she had to do a lot of, right? So I get what you're saying, Jay, and this is a work in progress, and I want feedback from all of you. In my mind, especially in those first 6 months, if everything is leading towards your closed and pending units being 65% of your unit goal by July 1st, you're all going to have to focus on income producing activity, right? So I think it will build on each other. This is a place where we all know how our brains work, hopefully. Is anyone on here under 25? If you're under 25, you might not fully know how your brain works yet. But if you know yourself and you know what would support you in doing it and sticking with it, do that. What we're seeing, and I'm saying we because I've talked to quite a few coaches about this, and we actually did a coaches mastermind about a week and a half ago, and this was an in-depth talk. We're experiencing that people, they still love their big why, they still love their annual goal, they like all of that. It is not creating consistent action early enough in the year where people are getting ahead of it. So just really think about this. It really ties back to how many people are you talking to every week? How many people are you having two-way communication with every week? How many leads are you identifying every week? How many listing appointments are you going on every week? And how many buyer consultations, depending on who you work with, are you having every week? And what I'm seeing is that most of my clients, if they make a somewhat, remember how we used to call goals BHAGs? Remember that? Big, hairy, audacious goals. That was a Diana era. If they're setting a crazy goal that almost seems impossible, but isn't, and they just go for it in a short time frame, you don't have any choice, right? And Julia, when I think back, I believe that you also did some short-term target, for either getting all the way through the red folder or having so many listings or getting current inventory price rate. Like you did some short-term ones too. My theory, and this is just my theory, I haven't done research, I have no data, You guys know I usually love having my data, right? No data. This is my theory with the length of time I've been doing this and talking to agents all day long across the country. When Amber said, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. Okay, all right. I'm sending a video announcement to the team today. I'm not doing anything else except getting these 12 listings. It reduces the number of decisions that you have to make every day. Because if you just have to take 70 listings, or if you just have to go on 81 listing appointments in the course of the year, you have all these choices. You get to work on March 3rd and you come in, you've got your coffee and like, I'm not in the mood to lead generate today. Like if you're just thinking about the annual, you've got all it. And they're like, you know what? It's been a while since I double checked all the links on our social media and our internet presence. I'll do that today. And you have too many choices. And when you have too many choices and you have to make too many decisions, it leads to decision fatigue. And anytime fatigue is used to describe any part of your brain or physicality, do you think you're going to choose action or are you going to give yourself a break? But you're exactly right. Who put this in here? Yeah, Julia. That when if everyone in here was like, that's it, we will be at the 15% number. Jay, you talk to the whole team and you're like, all right, news team assemble. We will have 11 pending sides on January 1st. What do we need to do? There's not any choice to make. You must lead generate, lead follow up, identify leads, call the long shots, call the Hail Marys. The people that said, we're not sure, Jay, we think we want to use the neighborhood expert. You're going in one more time and doing a full court. You're going to leave everything on the field and then you're going to reap the reward. So let's go through and any comments or questions about this right now. Who would like to have income every month?
Me.
So I have news. That means you have to have a closing every month. And by the way, I know a bunch of you have semi-passive or semi-active, other streams, all of that. But if we're just looking at bringing your A game and bringing out your best in your chosen profession in the sales arena, you have to have at least one closing every month. All of you, play with the percentages I gave you and really look at each month and figure out. So Jay, your number 70. What is 30% on a unit basis of 70?
24.
So by March 31st, you need 24 pending sides. Look at the flow of your year, pull up some of your data from previous years, and you pick now. You are like professional pool players calling your shots. Jay, I want you to, and let the team be involved. Let the team say, make it part of your meetings. All right, guys, month of January, how many new contracts could we have accepted? What about February? What about March? Call the shots. Be like, it's going to be 8 in January. It's going to be 6 in February, the balance in March, because that's the beginning. So sketch this out. And once it's really sketched out, and if you have a team, you have team buy-in. If you're a solo agent, you have at least all of your personalities and in your mind bought in. Print this out and get it in front of you. And I would put it in more than one place. I would put it wherever you typically work from home, have it in your peripheral vision to the right. Wherever you work at the office, peripheral vision to the right. Somewhere where your whole team can see it if you have a team. So let's go through these. Any questions or thoughts before I get into more of the details of economic model? Is there anyone who thinks like this is nuts? Because believe me, I know what I'm saying is not exactly what we typically coach in real estate coaching. I get it. So is anyone sitting here going like, this sounds kookadoo? No? Okay. All right, so let's you can go ahead and go through this. So in the economic model, you want to know where your money's coming from and when. You want to be clear on what drives profits and what just looks busy. And you want to make decisions based on data, not on drama. Unsound is when you don't know what's coming in next month and you don't know how much it will cost to have what's coming in next month. And ending the year wondering where is the money. Anyone have that happen before? You worked your butt off. You worked more than 40 hours a week. You probably worked some even while you were on vacation. And maybe end the year and you're like, aside from the 10 grand I put in that investment account and paying my taxes, where'd that money go? So you want to make sure that you're not falling into that trap. Okay. Key focus, you've got to know, like we talked about, you have to know the numbers you and or your team need to hit in order to achieve the goal. Even when I was in that meeting with other coaches, we were talking about how COVID disrupted. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think we're coming out of it with some fresher insight. But a lot of coaching shifted from conversion rates, numbers, and all the data because all of us were like, we don't know what's coming next. We had the rug was just yanked out from the world, right? So it shifted. I believe now is the time where we get back into that. So if we are in coaching, I really want us to start using the conversion chart that I have for all of you. And I want us to really start looking at the numbers. And if you are the rainmaker and you need to be focused on getting listings, we need to figure out who is on the team where that should be what they spearhead. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you are a solo agent, then we need to be really careful to set aside 20 minutes and make sure that it never takes you longer than 20 minutes a week to know your numbers and record them. Does that sound good to everyone? Okay. The appointments, you've got to know how many appointments that you must go on in order to hit your ratios and hit what you need to hit. And this is buyer or seller. A mini challenge I'm going to give everyone right now is now, if you're already doing more than this, then you add it on to what you're doing. One mini goal is between now and Christmas, you will go on 10 listing appointments. If you're already going on more than 10, add 10 more. So play around with that number. I do believe in customization. So, if you're like, well, I'm currently going on 2 a week, I want to add 1 more per week. Great. Figure it out. But challenge yourself that while other agents, guess what most of your colleagues are doing, Julia?
They're taking off.
Yeah.
Vacation.
Yeah. Here. Oh, look, Betty Lou Big Big's here. Betty Lou, what do you want to say? Well, it's not really a good time to sell at the holidays. So most of my sellers, I just advise them to take their properties off and, I have some downtime yeah, most agents are like, it's holiday time. For a lot of agents, the holidays start with Halloween and they carry it to about Martin Luther King Day. That means there's more opportunity for you. If you're actually going to work and you're actually going to talk to people and you're going to tell vendors that you're working and you're doing your just so you know script and you're getting that out everywhere, you can find appointments. So that's a challenge I'm giving you guys. Who's willing? Who's going to go for at least 10 listing appointments between now and Christmas?
Talking to myself about the challenge. It feels big.
What'd you say? It's big?
It feels like a big number.
It is a big number. Going from no pendings to 10 million in closed volume 2 months later, that was a big goal. Sometimes, I'm not going to nerd out on our brains. When our brains, if we give them a small number, so if I said to y'all, okay, every week you're working, just make sure you go on 1 listing appointment, most of you would be able to say like, all right, because you're kind of coming close to that already. So your mind will be like, that'll be easy. Just make 1 more phone call and it'll be little. When you say to yourself, I'm going on 10, your subconscious is already thinking about it, Jay. It's already going like, all right, wait a minute. Where is it possible? How could I do that? What would I need to do? Where would it be? What if I called those vendors? What if I called my fraternity brothers? So you're already thinking. But when you do the shock the system kind of big goal, you'd be shocked what comes from it, right? What if I gave you guys a way where every single person in this Zoom room, including Ruby, could actually hit 10 listing appointments who would like the safety net where you could do it? Challenge yourself that if you don't have 2 listing appointments a week, then you will call an inner circle, past client, one of your best vendors, a referral partner, someone in your inner circle that you know, love, and trust. Maybe you don't love them, but you know them and you trust them and they like you. Call them up and say, closing out the year, I'm refining my entire listing presentation and conversation. Jay, would you mind if I came over this week and just acted like I don't know you that well and did my whole listing presentation? What are they going to say?
Is that a rhetorical question? Sure.
That's right. It's part of your inner circle. So they're going to say like, sure. Yeah. When do you want to do it? If it comes Saturday morning, you better bring the coffee and it's got to be Pete's, not that Starbucks crap. So it's part of your inner circle, right? So they're going to say yes. People love to help. This ties in with so many things. It ties in with Ben Franklin effect. It activates their RAS. You're reinforcing and raising up the automatic filter when they think of you. You're taking realtor and moving it up a couple spaces. So just decide now if you want to take on that you will do, I'll change the wording, you will complete 10 full listing presentations between now and Christmas. And it's going to be a mixture of real and a mixture of real play with people that are not agents. That's one thing. You cannot do it with another agent. It's got to be, because your mind will perceive that in a different manner. Okay. And let's really get hardcore about your conversion rates. So all of you, if you really want to dig deep on this, you want to pull out your calendar for the past year and go in your CMA preparation software and see how many listing appointments you actually went on year to date and how many listed and get that number. And if it's below 75, which by the way, the national average is like 22%. Okay. So I know 75 is a high number, but you guys are high achievers and you want to achieve even more. If it's below 75, then be like, all right, how am I going to bring that up? Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. So this, I'm going to let you guys go through this, but this is how you can look at your own business, whether you have a team or you're solo, and you can actually figure out what you need to do to hit your goal for both listings sold and buyer sides. Okay. We can have a follow-up call and go through this in detail. I just really wanted to talk about that immediacy and the reducing decisions. I felt very compelled that we had to go through that. This is also how you would set up the leads required to achieve the goal. So quick recap of the formula. I'm going to see who knows it. Unmute yourself if you think you know it. I want to sell 24 homes and 12 will be listings. How many listing leads do I need to identify this year to sell 12 listings? Multiply by 10. Oh, sorry, something was in my throat. So if I want to sell 12 listings, how many seller leads do I need to identify?
120.
120. And then I need to know how many weeks I'm going to work. Right now, we're in a real sweet spot where it's around 50 weeks, even if you factor in trainings and vacations and holidays. So if you're starting now, it's around 50 weeks. So what's 120 divided by 50?
2 point something.
So we're going to round up to 3. So if you want to sell, 12 listings next year, starting this week, it's only Wednesday, right? No, Thursday. What's today? Thursday. Start making absolutely sure you identify 3 people that say they want to sell in 2026. And let's say buyer side, it's the same numbers if you're doing 50-50. I would encourage you, if you notice in this example, when you're setting your goals, set your listing division to perform at 60% of goal and the buyer division to perform at 40% of goal, with one exception. If you are on a team where there's one rainmaker that is the head of the listing division with staff and you have more than 3 buyers agents, then the buyer division should be flipped. It should be higher. Buyer division would be 60, listing division. If you're a solo agent, I still think you should go 60-40. Whose life is easier typically when you have more listings? Everyone, right? So just keep that focus, keep it skewed towards listings. All right, let's go. So let's talk for a minute on the economic model, and you guys have the MREA charts. Just doing a rough example. We used different numbers here. We used 29%, 29%. Gary recommends that your cost of sale should be no more than 30%. There's a couple of income levels where it skews higher during growth. And your overall operating expenses shouldn't be more than 30%. And that leaves you with a profit of 40%. And many of you know, I love a dollar. And most of my clients also love dollars. And many of my clients have said, I'm going to strive to make it 25% while still having growth. So just know you want to beat these numbers. Let's do it because that is remarkably fun to do. And okay, we can hit the next one. This you can study again. So this is the same numbers, but using a goal of 125. How many of you are going to shoot for somewhere around 125 next year? You still get to see how to do the numbers. So do it. I wanted you to have the different one. You can keep going. It just gives you more of the same because repetition will bring it up. I'm going to add in one other element, and this really is also part of budget model. Could we all decide this is the year that if you are attached to a lead source that is not performing, you will either have it performing where you need it to be by Memorial Day, or you will let it go. Okay. And yes, I'm looking at anyone that has paid lead sources. So I was so proud. One lady who I didn't ask her if it was going to be something I could share or not. She just made the decision and she let go of her entire Zillow. I thought she was just going to let go of a portion of it. It's gone. Was that easy? No. Did we decide in one coaching call? No, certainly in it. So I'm not saying no. I don't want anyone running out of here and being like, I'm cutting off my realtor.com. No, that's not my point. My point is if you are paying for something that is a lead source and you are not making 3 times what you spend on it, then can we analyze it in depth and see, is it operator error? Meaning maybe your follow up is not strong enough or engaging or whatever. Do we need to revamp an 8x8 through social media, email, and phone calls? Is there a way to reignite some of the leads from 3 years ago? So, like, let's analyze it. But just how many of you have ever kept a lead source out of fear? I'll raise my hand. And by that, I'll give you a great example. I hear this often enough, less and less often, but I hear it. Well, I've paid for that realtor.com zip code for 6 years. And if I let it go, someone else will get it. Anyone ever had a thought like that? But you know what I'm talking about, right? So that's hanging on to something that's underperforming out of fear. Look, can we just all agree as a group? We're not going to have fear based decision making around anything paid towards cost of sale or operating expenses. We're going to look at it. And if it is underperforming and we analyze it to see if we can make it perform, and it doesn't, that this is the year there will be an end date and it will be sunsetted. That sound good? So you guys know I love ahas. Can I get 3 ahas from our time together? Well, first of all, did you guys find this useful?
Yes.
Is everyone's mind kind of chewing on, And by the way, I want you all, please, I want feedback on this. Because again, it's a little outside of the standard kind of coaching models that we typically use. So if you play around with it, if you like draw 12 squares on a page and you start thinking about maybe a target per month and you're like, wow, that doesn't feel exciting. And you figure out, you know what? I'm going to make it 1 per quarter and it's always going to be the 3rd month of the quarter except for December. Like if you come up with a revision to what we discussed today, please share it with me because it's new and it's not that it's unproven because it works. We all do it. We all have had to, right? Everyone here, haven't you had a time where you're like, I really want 5 closings in October. And you're like, well, I'm making it happen. Like, so we've done it. It's not like it's unproven, but to actually weave it into the full approach to the year that you would even share with your team, if you have a team, or you're going to share it with your coach and or your team leader and your vendor to make it a part of the fabric. It's a little different. I know it's not like there's nothing new under the sun. So it's not like you've never heard the words before, but it's a little different approach. So please communicate with me. If you play with it, you find a friction point and then you come up with something you think would be a better fit. Can we all agree on that? All right, 3 takeaways and we'll wrap up.
I took some notes through the year how I want to reach out to my sphere. And if they do not go in the squares per month or on the calendar, it will just not happen because you need to order the material like a month before
Right.
to schedule the time to do that. But I very much like the approach of doing things like 1 treat per month that is just different, also just to keep it fresh. Like I struggle with every day the same routine. That is harder for me than just giving 1 big push and then having something different with 1 big push. And of course, everything is outreach. Everything is always some kind of lead gen.
That's right. Yeah, it's all going to be around income producing activity. Yeah. All right, let's get 2 more. 2 more takeaways or ahas.
The 10-to-1 is a big number. I've got to just wrap my head around that in terms of like lead to convert actual sales.
Oh, by the way, I do have all the data on that. Y'all, how many of you know that I'm your data gal? I love big data, right? And that, Jay, that is backed by decades of big data from multiple sources. And it was really funny because in the recession, there was a lot of talk of like, oh my God, the 10-to-1 is going to change. Guess what? It barely changed. It was not statistically significant. So you and I can talk about that more. It's a freedom number when you get your whole team knowing what their number is per week and gamify it a little bit and people just know what they need to do. They love it. All right, let's get one more real quick because my computer's about to die and I'm in a strange office and I don't know how to plug it in quickly. One more.
I'm liking the short-term goal. I feel like it's going to keep me more focused this is what I'm doing this week and I got to get it done. And by being in motion and activity, it will create more.
That's right. Well, guys, I really appreciate you being here. Can I share one bit of good news? The podcast is currently the #1 ranked new show in the entrepreneurship category on Apple.
That's great.
You're just that cool. Congrats.
Congratulations. That's awesome.